We have ROST stores reporting mixed third quarter results, beating profit expectations, but did fall short on sales. It's been a busy week for retail earnings, and more are on tap next week. Let's talk about the state of the retail sector. We want to bring in Jerry Storch. He's Storch Advisor, CEO, and former CEO of Toys R Us. Jerry, it's great to have you back on Yahoo Finance. Let's talk about what we've heard over the last week or so. You have Walmart outperforming. You have Target coming in below the street's expectations. You've seen a bit of a mixed picture as we round out the rest of the retail sector so far. What does this tell you as we head into the holiday, very important holiday shopping season?
Well, it's a very consistent story. The consumer is still stretched by the cumulative effect of so much inflation, and they're deeper in debt than they've been before. So what we see are strong value players are doing great, but companies that rely too heavily on discretionary purchases are not doing so well. So, Walmart and Target were both founded in 1962, and they've been competing ever since, and it's fun to watch that pair. What we've seen for the entire period since 1962 is that in great times, Target does better because people have more money to spend. They spend it on more discretionary items. In tough times, then Walmart does a lot better. Higher income consumers trade down into Walmart. The value-based shoppers all go there, whatever their income, and Walmart does better. And Walmart is hitting it out of the park right now while Target is struggling.
Help me out here then, because, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry, Gap and Target, the income level of the consumer at both feels relatively similar to me. We've got Gap up as much as 18% this morning, the last time that I checked, because they raised their annual sales forecast. Meantime, Target continuing to struggle. What's the disconnect?
Well, it's not really a disconnect at all. You got to keep in mind the Gap has been struggling for a long time. It's in the midst of a turnaround that's going very well under Richard Dixon, a good friend of mine, by the way. He used to be at Mattel when I was at Toys R Us selling me Barbies, if you can believe it. And so now he's taking that fashion sense into Gap, and he's doing great with it. But keep in mind, their sales were only up 1% same-store sales. That's not a particularly great number. It's just so much better than what they were doing before, and the margins were healthy. But it doesn't mean that their consumer is suddenly going crazy and buying tons of stuff. The only retailer who posted same-store sales that could be considered at all high is Walmart at 5.3% same-store sales. Everybody else is either low single digits or negative.
But to be fair, Target has also been struggling here for a couple of quarters now. If you were to talk to Brian Cornell today, what advice would you give him?
Oh, wow. Look, it's a long list. They ran into trouble right after the pandemic. They've been struggling ever since. I think the core strategy is still sound, but they've got to focus more on value in this environment. And that should be the primary message right now. Everyone already knows Target has cool stuff, but value is what the consumer is looking for. I think it's also very important to get the supply chain right, and they've been struggling with that also since the pandemic, kind of whiplashing on inventory from having too much to being out of stock, having too much being out of stock, and so they have to straighten that out.
Jerry, you're the perfect person to ask about this, just given your background as a CEO. I'm curious, if you were still CEO today, how would you view the threat of potential tariffs and maybe how that's going to affect sourcing, how that's going to affect and influence pricing down the road?
Well, first of all, you stay calm. We don't have any idea what the magnitude of the tariffs are going to be, the breadth of the tariffs, what they're going to be. We really don't know much of anything. We just know what President Trump said on the campaign trail. So we have to watch it. The other thing is that usually the effects of this kind of thing are less than people think. It's not like 100% of the tariffs get passed along. A recent study out of China showed that the first round of Trump tariffs, most of it did actually get absorbed by the Chinese manufacturers and the government. They're trying to keep that business from shifting elsewhere. I'd certainly be looking at alternative sources of supply. The more alternative sources you have, the better negotiating position you'd be in, including sourcing domestically. So what you see is it's not the entire amount of the tariffs that goes into your wholesale cost, because you can mitigate it. And so at the end of the day, it's somewhere between zero effect, which is probably more than that, and the entire amount of the tariff is going to vary by the good, how substitutable other products are, where you can source them, et cetera. So I'd get to work. That's what I do, but in a calm way, because I don't think this is some kind of catastrophe.
We're already hearing reports of some retailers beefing up their inventory ahead of any potential tariffs. Do you agree with that decision?
I don't know. I think I'd be very, very careful. I'd only do that on the safest of goods. Otherwise, you run the risk of being over inventory on product you can't sell. And let me tell you, the biggest expense in any retailer is not supply chain, it's markdowns.
Jerry, when you talk about this divergence, going back to almost where we started the conversation, the divergence in performance that we've seen in retailers, it seems like that gap has only gotten wider. I know you and I have been talking about this for years, just in terms of what's working and what's not working with the consumer. How should then retailers and retail executives be thinking about the online e-commerce strategy component of this versus the brick and mortar in-store, and who is doing this best?
Look, it's only one strategy. I don't think about it as two different strategies. It's what is your all-channel strategy for communicating with customers and for delivering the goods to them. So I, certainly think that the retailers that have the complete paradigm down are doing the best. So I hate to keep talking about Walmart so great, but they really do have it down. And so we see their e-commerce growing double digits, way outpacing most retailers in this period. If you really study that, though, a lot of that is where people are buying it online and going to the store to have it put in their car, for drive up, for pickup there. And so that's a great example of how you integrate the two. They're doing that quite well. Some retailers, it just doesn't even matter. TJX is one of my favorite retailers. The value they stand for is tremendous, and they continue to do well quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter, including the most recent report. They don't have much of an e-commerce offering because the whole trick there is going to the stores and looking for value and looking for that treasure hunt. You can't do that online when there's only onesies, twosies of things. You can hardly put those up on a website and try to fulfill that kind of product from the store. So basically, it varies by retailer. A lot of them are doing great. The internet is here to stay. Amazon's another top pick that I've had for a long, long time. If you look, the internet continues to grow faster than bricks and mortar sales. I think last month it was up something like 7% year over year, when overall retail sales were up less than 3%. So you can see it continues to take share. So you can't forget the internet just because there are all these other issues on your plate.
All right, Jerry Storch, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it. Jerry is Storch Advisors CEO.